Perfect.
Is Crestwood Coach Conversation brought to you by Wilson Custom Tree Service. We're with head coach Justin Denner recapping last week's 37-19 loss to Independence to close out non-district play. And coach, what were your takeaways from last Friday night?
Yeah, Independence is a very solid program, very solid team. We knew that coming in. We knew they had a very explosive offense, and ultimately we just started a little too slow to really put ourselves in a position to compete and so forth. And it wasn't like huge mistakes, very similar to kind of Decorah. But it was just, again, just small mistakes here and there on both sides of the ball that, prevented us from moving the ball effectively, as well as giving up too many big plays in the first half. But I was proud of our guys, proud of our coaching staff for making and recognizing the adjustments that we needed to make, and then communicating those things throughout the course of the half and then the second half. And I thought we played and gave a much better representation of ourselves and our program there in the second half. And that's really what we've just got to try and figure out is how can we start the game that way versus taking 24 minutes worth of game time to get ourselves revved up and into it, and how can we execute at a high level against good teams and good programs faster. And so that's what we've been trying to emphasize here this week, and hopefully we can learn from that and continue to grow and help ourselves out now that district play is upon us.
And how do you go about doing that? Is it a team thing? Is it everybody collectively doing it? Is it the coaching staff maybe handling some things differently this week? How do you go about trying to get off to that better start?
Yeah, it's a combination of stuff. As coaching staff, we had to kind of evaluate of our was our play calls the right thing that would put us into our best position. Were we trying to get maybe a little bit too fancy with things versus sticking with our base stuff. Were we able to what's the process we need to go about to help make adjustments faster. And so we addressed some of those things on the backside of stuff. As far as practice goes, maybe, changing up the order of things. We went a couple of days where we did team, a little bit, or some team stuff or some group things a little bit earlier within the practice, versus the normal schedule that we had last week to try and, definitely emphasize, getting things out of, getting the cobwebs out, getting kind of the intensity ramped up a little bit faster. And then just talking through with the guys about the importance of starting fast, and the importance of being locked in, the importance of being ready to go when the bell goes off, and so forth there, and ready to rock and roll. And so it's a lot of different levels of stuff. And the thing that stinks is we won't really truly know if any of it worked until Friday night, but we do feel good about, what we've done so far this week. And we had to deal with some weather tonight here and there, but we felt our guys handled that really well, and we're looking forward to homecoming here.
And when you look at the first 3 weeks of your season at all, and this is based on talking to you tonight and talking to you last week, do you feel that if you just do those little things just a little bit better, and you guys are going to be in good shape?
Yeah, absolutely. I felt, as when we talked, before week one, there was a lot of unknowns, right? There was a lot of guys that were, getting, first varsity reps or extended varsity reps for the first time, or being the focal guy, or being the kind of lead dude. And we didn't know necessarily what we had, right? And, we played, two insanely really good teams, right? I think, MFL's obviously going through some struggles with some different injuries and stuff like that. But Decorah is going to be a team that's going to win 8 or 9 games in the regular season, right? Independence is going to be a team that's going to win 7, 8 or 9 games in the regular season. And so it's not like we played slouches these last 2 weeks, and we can definitely see the growth that's occurred within our team from week one to week three. Obviously, the scoreboard isn't going to reflect that, which that's a lot of people all they care about. But as a coaching staff, we've seen that growth, from there, and absolutely, it's one of those deals that the mistakes that we've got aren't like ginormous, oh man, how are we going to handle this? What are we going to do? It's the, hey, we've got to, we talked about it with our guys on, all throughout the week. It's, it's effort with discipline, right? We've been playing with great effort. It's just sometimes our discipline's lacked, whether it's been, discipline with eyes, discipline with moving in the right direction, discipline with, route running, or discipline with, blocking schemes, et cetera. And so it's how can we, continue to play with the effort that we have and then up the discipline that goes along with it. And that's been kind of the focus. And we feel if we do that, we feel really good about where we'll sit here in the next, 5 weeks.
Is that just kind of long story longer, kind of getting the heart and the head together? Because the heart obviously is there with your guys, the knowing what to do and making those two things connect. Is is that what it gets down to as you start district play?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those, deals where, being able to get a guy to the right, kind of mental headspace, right? So obviously we've talked, that we've got new dudes that are playing. And so sometimes it just takes a little bit to figure out, okay, where do I need to be, mentally, emotionally, some guys, they need to be ramped up. They need to be the high energy, the dude that's just running around screaming like, whatever, to play well. Right. And other guys need to be more, maybe of the Zen, and the calm and the cool and the collected and the, kind of the stoic presence. And then there's guys that got to be in the middle, and so some of that they've got to learn for themselves. They may think there's something, but then realize, okay, nope, that didn't work. I've got to, either got to tone it down or I got to ramp it up. And so it's a learning process that, really only experience will go. And so that's what's been awesome about these 3 games is, yeah, we had a game where we were in control for a majority of the game. We experienced that. And then we've had games where we weren't in control and we had to deal with adversity. And our guys have learned from that, and I thought we played an outstanding second half. The take away the last touchdown, which happened right as time expired, but we still played, 6-6, right? And there was a lot of positions, we did an onside kick, tried the onside kick, didn't get it. We stopped them, right? We had an unfortunate turnover in our own red zone. We got a turnover back, right? Like, so there was a lot of great stuff to build on. And I think some of our guys started to kind of get their footing underneath them and kind of figured out that, that where they needed to be is now let's get there and be as consistent as we can for 4 quarters.
And us outside of the programs and the teams itself, we all look at the scoreboard only. In education-based athletics, there's a lot more to it than that. How do you go about selling to your guys that, yes, this is what the scoreboard is saying, but we're still moving forward?
Yeah, and that's a hard sell, right? Because we live in a very instant gratification centric world, right? You got the cell phones that I could tell or knew right away when the Cubs game was over today that they won, clinched a playoff berth, all that type of stuff. Heck yeah, for that. Didn't have to wait till back when I was younger, wait until the next morning and watching the Sports Center ticker down at the bottom and just hoping that the Cubs score comes up before I got to leave for school and all that type of stuff. And so we live in that, that instant gratification world. And, we talked through the break the rock stonecutter story that, Greg Schiano was made popular, that I was made popular with, when you're going through tough times and you're going through hard work, that you got to just keep hammering away at the rock, right? You may not see progress right away. You're not going to see progress right away, but at some point that thing's going to break. And when it breaks, it's not because of that hit, but everything that you did prior to it, right? And I'm like, week 1, we crushed the rock for win number 1. We're still looking for win number 2, and this boulder's it's stubborn, right? We've got to continue to pound the rock. We got to continue to hammer away, and show, okay, yep, there's some dents, there's some chinks here with all the things that we've gotten through and the steps we've made, but it still doesn't matter because we haven't broken it yet. So we've got to continue to hammer away, and I think our guys they're buying into that, and it's hard, right? We got to sell it every day. You got to bring the intensity as a coaching staff every day. In a positive way, as well as, a way to help correct the mistakes. But at the same time, every year we end, when we end our third district game, win or lose, etc. It's like, hey, we're back to 0-0. Everybody that we're going to be playing now is back to 0-0, back to now the things that matter the most. Nothing that would have happened if we would have gone 3-0, 0-3, 2-1, 1-2. It would not have impacted or changed anything to help us or hinder us to getting the playoffs because we've done it all, right? We've been 2-1, we've been 0-3, we've made the playoffs. Didn't matter. So now it's for us. It's now, can we break the rock and be 1-0? Coming in district play, and that's, our guys have taken great steps for that.
And New Hampton comes to town, definitely an improved football team over years past. I know they've got some pretty talented young skill kids on the offensive side of the ball. What have you seen from the Chickasaws that impresses you on film?
Yeah, they've grown, very significantly from week 1 to week 3. Again, they're in a younger situation, as you alluded to with their skill guys. I think their quarterback, tailback, top 2 receivers are all sophomores, and are very solid athletes. Have done some good things in other sports as well. Offensively, we're going to see some similar concepts that we run, that they run, and so that's nice for some familiarity aspect of things. But they've done a great job just improving, right? And they played 3 very tough games or very close games, or 2 very close games, and then they had MFL last week where they did a very good job of controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And yeah, we're excited, and we know that last year we had a very tough fight with them. The 4 years, or year 5 playing against these guys, it's been close games all the way through, very tight games with them, and it's even dating back to my earlier time here, it's always been a tough battle, and we expect nothing less coming forward.
All right, Coach, hopefully you can get back on the winning track and make it a happy homecoming this Friday night to keep your guys healthy. We wish you best of luck.
Appreciate it. Go Cadets.
And go Cubs, right?
And dang right.
Justin Denner, head coach of the Crestwood Cadets, brought to you by Wilson Custom Tree Service.